Election 2024 is over. America has voted, and both sexism and racism have won the day. On Liberal Dan Radio, we will hold everyone accountable, from the media that failed to report the threat that Trump poses to this nation, to the people who supported him. We will pick up the mantle to educate the people about his actions, from being dictator on day one, pardoning January 6th domestic terrorists, implementing Project 2025, and any other draconian measures he tries to pass. And now, the resistance begins. Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. I am not sure if I'm doing phone lines today. If we do, we'll announce that phone number later. I do have some work I have to get done before tomorrow, and I want to make sure that I have that done plenty of time so I can actually get some sleep. But there's plenty of stuff to talk about on the news and everything like that, so we're going to still go ahead and do the show and make sure to discuss, Donald Trump and all his horribleness and all of the stuff that's going on within his administration and beyond. So if you want to join the conversation, just leave your comments right now in the chat at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. Let's see who we got. We've got Aaron over on Twitch so far. We also have Aaron here on YouTube with Mad Mac, Josh, Steve from across the pond.
If it's no Scottish, it's crap!
I already said Josh, Progressively Independent. I think we've got... Oh, Jolie's here too.
I like turtles.
There we go. We got Jolie. How's it going, Jolie? Damn it, Botrix never incorrectly joined. I know. I mean, it's reliable. It's reliably joining the chat. Of course, I'm not even using the whatchamacallit, the app or the part on my screen. Ever since I switched computers and got the new OBS up here running, I haven't actually put the thing that would allow me to see the chat via Botrix. So as of right now, it's doing it for just nothing. So there's that. Let's see what to discuss first. Don't have much personal update wise to be talking about. Everything's pretty much the same. There's still the GoFundMe listed in the show description if you want to help support. I just got my bill for the when I went to the emergency room 2 days before my wife left the hospital because I thought I might have had a kidney stone, but who knows what happened. But it's fine now, I suppose. What's up, Jeff? Hey, when there's a good south wind, I can smell Uranus. That usually happens when there's a southern wind, but I don't know how good those southern winds might be. But good to see you, Jeff. Thank you for joining, as always. Let's see. In Louisiana, this was definitely interesting. In Louisiana over the weekend, we had elections. And there were 4 constitutional amendments on the table for everybody in the state, and there were several, across the state. Certain parishes had elections. I was shocked. There was 2 Republicans and a Democrat in a Jefferson Parish council race, and the Democrat made the runoff along with one of the Republicans who wasn't the, I guess, most popular one. So they split the votes enough. Thank you, Fancy, for gifting a Liberal Dan Radio membership. Appreciate you. John Deff is a Liberal Danimal now. Look at that. So, yeah. Hey, Roxanne, good to see you. If I miss you as I'm talking, please forgive me. I'm not going to sing the song Please Forgive Me because it's from Bryan Adams and he sucks. Anyway, I think I've told that story before. Maybe another day I'll tell it. So, Governor Jeff Landry of Louisiana was actually caught on a hot mic, I guess, talking to Speaker Johnson, also from Louisiana. about his expected turnout of the election that took place over the weekend, because this is what they do. They put these constitutional amendments up for votes during, not regular election times. And because of that, they hope that because of the low turnout, that the only people who will show up are the people who want to see this happen. And so, therefore, they'll get the things that they want passed. Well, people who were supporting these amendments included the governor himself, Donald Trump Jr., rapper 50 Cent, i.e. Curtis Jackson, and other people who were MAGA aligned, like in the legislature, got their butts handed to them in the state of Louisiana. Because not only did one of them fail, all of them failed. All of these amendments failed in the state of Louisiana. And it had the effect. I haven't seen all of the local results in all these other areas, but it also had the effect that other things that these parishes wanted, I guess adding renewals on property taxes or renewals on sales, or whatever they wanted to do, whatever they wanted to throw into this election, because everyone was voting no on all four, basically just voted no on everything. Now, sometimes that happens here in Louisiana, and I'm sure it happens other areas too. Like there was a fire millage renewal in order to keep the fire department funded so that, they could fight fires. And these taxation is theft, taxed enough already, Tea Party MAGA hypocrites who would use those services, except they don't want to pay for them. They've been so zealous and gung-ho about getting people to vote against everything that's a tax, they consider every renewal to be a new tax, and then they vote them down. So then the parish government had to do it again just to try and make sure that, hey, we need you guys to pass this, because otherwise we're not going to have a fire department. And if we don't have a fire department, your property insurances policies are going to go up, because you don't have fire cover, you don't have fire protection. If you don't have fire protection, you're not going to have good insurance rates. So I think that finally convinced them at some later point to then pass that thing. But I don't believe any of that was on the ballot this time. But this Amendment 1 would have allowed the state to create regional and statewide specialty courts, and would have granted the state Supreme Court the power to punish out-of-state lawyers accused of unethical behavior in Louisiana. One of the things about this law that I know is that they already have the authority to punish unethical out-of-state lawyers who operate in Louisiana. It was an unnecessary amendment meant to, I guess, consolidate power in the state government, so to speak, and kind of hold it there. Amendment 2 would have lowered the income tax rate, the state's minimum income tax rate, among other things, as this article says. It would have moved hundreds of $millions in tax revenue from state savings accounts into the Louisiana General Fund, where Landry could have spent it more easily, i.e., it was a cash grab on these funds. Now, some of these funds are dedicated, and yes, sometimes Louisiana has to deal with these issues where they put these funds into dedicated buckets and then they can't take them out. Maybe you should legislate better then. Apparently 50 Cent was supporting this because he dropped a video endorsing the amendment. I guess this one would have helped him open a production studio in Shreveport, Louisiana. Amendment 4, I don't even know what the Fourth Amendment is here. But the Third Amendment might have been the most egregious. Thank you, Dean, for the super chat, super sticker, super comment, I guess, whatever that is. But thank you very much for that. Appreciate you. Amendment 3 would have made it easier to prosecute somebody younger than 17 as an adult, i.e., the Constitution of the state of Louisiana includes certain crimes where if you're younger than 17, you could be charged as a adult, but it was only those crimes. So they wanted to basically say that any crime that took place from somebody who is a minor, you could then charge that minor as a felon, as an adult, and put like a 14-year-old kid in adult prison. Not the greatest thing. Thank you, Dean says, I'm trying to spread my dollars around to all my favorite channels. Oh, well, I'm glad I'm one of your favorite channels, and I appreciate you very much. So, hey, Suzanne, good to see you. Hey, Jackie as well. Chad, good to see you as well. Double two. Chad, Dems will take the House in 2026. Trump will take the White House in 2028. we're going to talk about that because I have some words. But not only did all 4 amendments lose, each of them got less than 40% of voter support, meaning it wasn't just the Democrats who did it. There were a ton of conservatives. Like, apparently the second of the 4 constitutional amendments was pages and pages and pages long, making it unbearably impossible to read. Like, arguments made by these conservatives on talk radio were basically like, amendments should be small. They shouldn't be pages and pages long. That's what, legislation should be that big, potentially, but not these amendments, not constitutional amendments. It's almost probably about time to have a Louisiana constitutional convention, because there's been a crap ton of amendments that have taken place in the state of Louisiana, and it feels like the Constitution of the state of Louisiana is just an amalgamation and combination of a whole bunch of useless parks that don't work well together. So, but yeah, so Amendment 3 would have made it easier, again, to prosecute someone if they're 17. Oh, Amendment 4 would have altered the timeline for judicial elections in the state. I think it did more than that. I think that's why more people opposed it. But here's the kicker. Here's what I enjoyed the most from Governor Landry being, angry that his baby's lost. Well, first, again, he was on the live mic with Speaker Johnson. They were talking about the turnout of the election, and he was thinking that it might be somewhere between 16%, maybe 18%, maybe less. However, it turned out that the turnout was like 21%. And in areas like New Orleans and Baton Rouge, you had massive get-out-the-vote efforts. Lots of signage for this one election, basically telling people, don't vote for this crap because it's crap. And Landry, after he suffered that huge loss at the polls with his desired amendments, says, Soros and far-left liberals poured millions into Louisiana with propaganda and outright lies about Amendment 2, he said in a statement. We realize how hard positive change can be to implement in a state that's conditioned for failure. No, bruh. It's not just liberals and far leftists who put your, as having a difficulty, but easy for me to say, who gave you difficulties this weekend. There were conservatives who didn't like this. One of the things that the second of the 4 amendments would have done, the really long one, one of the things it would have done is it would have basically took away the property tax exemption for nonprofits, which would have also taken away the property tax exemption, or at least the guarantee of a property tax exemption for churches. And that is why, like Buddy, I think it was Buddy Spell, one of the pastors who violated the law when it came to COVID, and he fought and successfully won the whole lawsuit over whether or not he was in violation of the law, violation of a governor's decree that we don't have church services in the middle of COVID, because it was more important for him to hold church services and help his people reach God quicker. That's the type of people who, we have here in Louisiana. I'm sure they're all over the place, but we're littered with them. But even that person was against this Jeff Landry sponsored, I guess 50 Cent sponsored, and Donald Trump Jr. sponsored bill as well, or amendment, so to speak. Dean, I heard Mike Johnson got identified being on Grindr. I wonder if that's picked up by the app that him and his son share to make sure that they don't watch porn. Whatever. Anyway, Chad, I don't agree with either party adding these amendments as anything other than what they're there for. Often Dems and Republicans try to use election time to either push stuff through or use it as an issue for. It's the fact that these things, it's like there's a double-edged sword here when it comes to those sort of things, because I can see the argument as to why you don't want to have everything in one election, right? So if you have, for example, presidential election, congressional elections, senatorial elections going on, you don't want to have 15 other things on the ballot, littering up the ballot, making it so that the people don't pay any attention to those things that they want passed. And I guess another argument that could be made on the pro side of having these things on, differently timed areas is the fact that, if you're not interested in the thing, don't vote. If you're interested in it, vote. Nobody's forcing you to stay home. So I guess that would be the argument of a lot of these people from, as to why they're okay with these elections taking place. The problem is this, is that, we've discussed this on the show a little bit, where Louisiana, schedules elections in such a way that, Jefferson Parish elections and other conservative parishes have these elections, and those elections will fall on other regular elections so that you have more on those ballots. But when it comes to New Orleans elections, and we've discussed this with council member J.P. Morrell on the show a while back, and I'm hoping to have him on the show again soon because there's lots of stuff going on in the city of New Orleans. But my issue with some of the things that were going down with a lot of these, elections that are taking place in New Orleans is that because New Orleans holds them at different times than everyone else, New Orleans doesn't get the benefit of, for example, the governor's race. When Jeff Landry won, we had a Democratic candidate who was running, but he did not have the benefit of New Orleans voters going out and voting on the same day for their councilmanic seats, for mayor, for everything else. There might have been a judgeship up, but nothing big. I mean, judgeships, I guess, are big to the judges, but still not citywide areas like, council people at large, the mayor, and not other folks like, the sheriff, because the sheriff is elected even though the chief of police is appointed. Why we have a sheriff's department and a police department, that seems like an area where some efficiency can take place. Speaking of government efficiency, that's not something that Musk actually cares about, but, it would be good to have an efficient government, but not how they're doing it, because they don't want efficient. Hey, Big Hook, good to see you. Let's see, my county elections are tomorrow, most important of all voting, in my opinion. And there's some other elections tomorrow as well. For example, I think there's two of the seats, or at least one, if not both of the seats that Republicans vacated, like Gates. I think Gates's former seat is up for election, and we'll see what happens in that election to see if Democrats can snag one. But, I have my doubts simply because of the fact that, I don't trust the Democrats to not snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. But Jeff Landry calling all of these conservative folks who came out liberals is going to work very well for whoever wants to challenge him in the next election. It'll work very well indeed, because they'll be able to, Jeff Landry called you a bunch of liberals. Are you going to stand for that? Or are you going to, actually stand up for yourselves? I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being a liberal, but many conservatives do. So, what else is going on in the world? What else do we want to talk about? Oh, Speaker Johnson. Let's go back to Speaker Johnson. Oh boy, this story is for subscribers only. So we have to now look it up because it looked like it was loading up normally. So here we go. House Speaker Mike Johnson was once dean of a Christian law school that never opened its doors. The establishment of the Judge Paul Pressler School of Law was supposed to be a capstone achievement for Louisiana College, which administrators boasted would unashamedly embrace a biblical worldview. Instead, it collapsed without enrolling students, opening its doors amid infighting by officials, accusations of financial impropriety, and difficulty obtaining accreditation, which frightened away would-be donors. And, they named him dean of the school. I wonder, is it Dean Johnson, Dean Wormer, Johnson, Worm, same thing, whatever. So anyway. Yeah. He claimed that he was a dean of a college that never really existed. Hey, Teresa, good to see you. Thank you for joining. I think I saw somebody else, maybe, or no, is that... I thought TV2 Live was there, but maybe I'm incorrect on that one. Oh well, no biggie. I'm sure he'll stop by if he needs to, wants to, etc. But yeah, it's par for the course, right? I mean, so the person who was helping her out with the Donald Trump coup, and the person who wouldn't go against Trump in his attempt to seize power in 2020, 2021, it makes perfect sense that he would follow the Trump school of, trying to defraud students, if you will, because that's probably what was going to happen if it ever opened its doors, especially trying to teach a biblical law school. Hey, Quesadilla 79. Hey, it's a House Sparks raid. Good to see y'all. Thank y'all for joining the show. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much, Hal, and the Sparklers who are joining the raid over on Twitch. Appreciate you. Hey, 250 kilo ohms. Good to see you as well. Again, thanks everybody. Sweetie246, KJ Doglove, H2O Gods 303. Thank you all for joining and chatting. Appreciate y'all. Remember, it's free to follow. You could always, if you haven't used your subscription from Amazon Prime, you could always, on HAL, you could always swing it on over here. Lots of ways to do it. We're trying to grow the Twitch channel and the YouTube channel. So if you happen to use YouTube as well, just head on over to liberaldanradio.com, which is the link to the YouTube channel. So we're trying to get those subscriptions up. Of course, subscriptions on YouTube are free. Subscriptions on Twitch are only free with Amazon. I don't know why one calls it subscriptions and other ones calls it memberships, but as Donald Trump says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. So yeah, we got Speaker Johnson and his shenanigans. Maybe it's about time to do a fat man rant, shall we? Since we have a whole bunch of people coming in, and we are going to head on over and switch screens for a second, because if you're new to the show, sometimes we will do something that's called a fat man rant. And the fat man rant is where I just talk about either useless Republicans, but in this case, it's useless Democrats that we'll be talking about today, which is, hey, Trucker John, good to see you. So there was a bill in the Senate, a resolution. The resolution was very, very simple. We normally go through laws like this a bunch, but this law is basically this short. Disapproving the rules submitted by the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection relating to overdraft lending of very large financial institutions. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America, Congress assembled, that Congress disapproves the final rule submitted by the Bureau of Consumer Financial Protection relating to overdraft lending of very large financial institutions. And that's basically it. That's all it says. So, and of course, this tiny little thing, that the actual rule that was put into place has many, many, many more words than that resolution did. But what's my issue? And basically, the summary is Consumer Financial Protection Bureau amends regulations E and Z to update regulatory exceptions for overdraft credits. Basically, this was limiting people and their ability, banks, to charge excessive overdraft fees. And the Republicans in the House said, we don't want to have that anymore. We want the poors to have to pay as much overdraft fees as possible. So why am I ranting about this? Well, obviously it sucks, but the vote on this was, 52 to 47 or 52 to 48. The only Republican to vote against it was Josh frickin' Hawley. Well, Josh frickin' Hawley is on the right side of things. Who the hell's on the wrong side of things? But here's something else. Again, 42 votes for, 47, 48 votes against. You had enough to filibuster. Senators Schumer, Senators Fetterman, Senators Sanders, all the senators who are Democrats who were sitting in the Senate. You could have absolutely 100% filibustered this attempt to overturn this rule. And you did not. I don't care what kind of filibuster you use, be it the one where you just, set things on a separate track and don't actually have to stand up there, or stand up there and do the thing. Your job right now, Senate Democrats, is to stop the Republicans from doing as much as you can stop them from doing. And Leader Schumer is failing at his job miserably. Not only did he sign off on that continuing resolution to enable that to happen instead of forcing the GOP to work with them or telling the American public that the reason that this government would have had to shut down was the Republicans saying that they needed the Democrats' help to pass this legislation, but not willing to bring the Democrats to the table to give them what they might want in order to give their help for the legislation. No, Schumer just bent over backwards and forwards or whatever, the way Trump does for Putin, and just took it. Well, what's happening here? They also just allowed the Senate Republicans to do whatever it is the hell they want. How are you going to retake the House and the Senate in the next upcoming midterm elections if you don't have a spine to stand up for the people who you're supposed to stand up for? Right? I mean, am I completely off base here? Do you think I'm wrong for criticizing the Senate Democrats for not standing up against this particular legislation and other legislation that they could stand up against? I mean, you can feel free, leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and of course, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. And for all of y'all who haven't watched here, so this is normally I record things live during the show, so I don't have to like re-record them. I'm speaking from the heart, hit record, then cancel, and then there you go. So that's what we do here on Liberal Dan Radio sometimes, just to make it easier to upload the clips to the YouTube channel as well. Let's see, H2O gods, with the Republicans holding the House, what are the Dems supposed to do right now? I don't care about the House Democrats at the moment. There's nothing that the House Democrats can do. It's the Senate Democrats that have the ability to filibuster. And they should use that ability all the time. Or force the Republicans to make, the resolutions that would, or pass the legislation that are only financial, that would only require a simple majority. But those then have to follow certain rules as well. So force them to follow the rules and force them to, if they want your help, force them to bring you to the table. And if they won't, show a spine and stand up to them. Because there's no reason why this should have happened. There's no reason why this rule should have been overturned. There's no reason why we should have had a continuing resolution for 6 months pass while, they needed our help, but they didn't give us anything in return. So, Cory Booker is doing it right now? Wait, we might need to pull that up. Hold on. Did I, put out, the bat signal or whatever? Let's see. That's an hour ago. It might have been an hour ago. I don't know. Let's see. Let's flip this over to the alternate. I don't understand why C-SPAN has to show ads. I don't show ads during my live streams on YouTube. I don't know why C-SPAN has to show these ads. Let's go ahead and skip that. Let's take a look and see what Cory Booker is doing.
Grateful to be able to rise right now and speak. I want to say at the top that I have a tremendous love for this institution.
Yeah, that's what it says right here.
And a lot of that's born from the people that are here, from the pages I get to know in every class to the folks who work the doors, the clerks, the parliamentarians. It's a special place, and a lot of the people who are known here are not the ones who really keep this place functioning.
But, I mean,
I come in here days and I have
that still didn't stop the
good moods or bad moods, but always find myself lifted when I walk onto this floor. It's a sacred civic space. It is extraordinary, and I'm always aware of the weight of history when I walk in here, no matter good day, bad day, whether I'm in a rush or not. When I touch the Senate floor, I feel something
a joint resolution
really
approving the
magnificent.
rules submitted by the BCFP
I don't
pass Senate
think
without amendments.
that
I don't know what he's
our
trying to block, but at
founders
least
would have
he's
ever
trying to do
imagined a
something about
body like
something.
this,
Of course, doing
with black
something
people on both
accomplishing something are
sides
two
of the
different things as
aisle,
well.
with women serving here, with folks from many different backgrounds. We are, in many ways, doing what this Senate, what the founders had envisioned, which was this idea of every generation making this a more perfect union.
This is still
But
just the
there
full video.
have been times
So I don't know
in
if
this
it's live or
journey
not.
where our union was in crisis
maybe-
and was
Let's see.
percent of all
There we go.
national
That's
births.
it. He's live right there.
And is the largest payer for long-term
can watch
care
this
and
live for a
behavioral
little
health
bit.
services. These cuts would have devastating consequences, particularly for those in small towns and rural communities, where Medicaid is often the primary source of health coverage. Medicaid is not just a health program, it is a lifeline. It provides access to care for those who need it most: poor and vulnerable children, pregnant women, elderly, adults, and disabled individuals in our nation, while ensuring their dignity. Their dignity. Here's the Partnership for Medicaid again. The Partnership for Medicaid, a nonpartisan, nationwide organization representing clinicians, healthcare providers, safety net health plans, and counties, calls on Congress to reject cuts to Medicaid during the budget reconciliation process. The Partnership for Medicaid stands ready to work with policymakers to identify more sustainable strategies to strengthen Medicaid and improve upon its promise of providing high-quality coverage and access to care populations. Another organization saying, hey, put me in. Let us help you improve this program, and maybe we could achieve some of our mutual goals. Here is Dr. Susan Cressley, president of the American Association of Pediatrics, the great AAP. The American Academy of Pediatrics urges lawmakers to reject
At least I'm not
the
the only
budget
one that
resolution
misspeaks
before the
sometimes.
U.S. House of Representatives and to protect programs that are vital to the health and well-being of children. We oppose the proposed funding cuts to programs like Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program, which cover nearly half of all U.S. children, as well as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. These cuts would have devastating consequences for children and families. We're going to talk about cuts to SNAP later, but I love how Dr. Susan Cressley, president of the American Association of Pediatrics, can't help but mention them together. Why is a doctor concerned about health care also mentioning SNAP? Well, fundamental to our children's health and well-being is having access to fresh and healthy foods. This is me being a little
You'd think that wouldn't be something that would be that, controversial.
critical of people saying their Maha, make America healthy again, and then immediately cutting kids' access to fresh, healthy fruits and vegetables. I love this doctor. It's almost like you're doubling down on the injury to our children. We're cheapening highly processed and sugar-filled, empty, nutritious foods, denying access to fresh, healthy fruits and vegetables, and then not letting people with chronic diseases get health care. I love this doctor for pointing out those connections. But now I'm going to go to Brian Connell, who is a vice president of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. The fiscal year 25 budget resolution would create not just the opportunity by the obligation for the House Committee on Energy and Commerce to make dangerous cuts to Medicaid program in the budget reconciliation process expected in the coming week. The hundreds of billions of dollars cuts demanded by the budget resolution cannot be achieved
That's the word I was looking for earlier, reconciliation.
without slashing benefits for enrollees or altogether taking away Medicaid coverage for millions of Americans. To be clear, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and the patients we represent are clamoring for Congress to lower health care costs. But the framework before the House today would pave the way for policies that do just the opposite. putting affordable access to health care out of reach of millions of Americans. Feeding America, I love this organization, cuts to vital federal nutrition programs like SNAP, necessitated by this resolution and the Senate version passed last week, will make families grappling with high food costs, hurt rural economies, and strain food banks already overwhelmed by the rising demand. We urge the House to reject spending cuts to nutrition programs in the budget reconciliation process and support the work the House and Senate Agricultural Committees are doing to create a strong bipartisan farm bill. The federal AIDS policy.
All right. I believe that, I mean, it's great that he's getting up there. It's great that he's talking about stuff. And look, you know, they should do it more often. However, I wish he would have done that in response to the attempts to try and overturn this ban on overdraft on excessive overdraft fees. That's the thing. Why didn't he do that before? I love that he's doing it. I love that he's standing up there. I love that he's, you know, taking a stand against Trump and Musk and their shitty policies. But my question would be, why not during that particular piece of legislation? Why not? I mean, I understand for reconciliation purposes, you can't necessarily do it on budgetary stuff, perhaps, if they force it down your throats via reconciliation. But I don't think that the continuing resolution that was passed on that, I don't think that one, you know, was a reconciliation. I think it was just regular legislation that they could have filibustered. Force them to do what they, to either have us help, or force them to be shut down. Because yes, people are going to, Chuck Schumer would say stuff like, oh, the pain that people are going to go through is going to be too much if we shut down government. The pain of people from this administration is going to be, you know, horrible for the next 4 years, regardless of what's going on, you know, with this one particular resolution. Is it going to suck? Would it suck for people if the government shut down? Yes. Is it going to suck for people if government didn't shut down? Yes. So it's going to suck regardless. Let's see, Chad, I agree, Dan, but at this point, he's just grandstanding and not acting when it's important. Well, that's kind of my point, though, is that he should have done this prior. He should have done this to stop the bad legislation overturning the rule from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. That's when he should have done that. So, again, appreciate him doing it. Should have been better timed. You know, or as Trump says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. See, our real President Biden was making good headway with lowering metal costs, and the current regime instantly got prices raised. Exactly. That's exactly what they did. Donald Trump bragged that he lowered insulin and EpiPen prices as part of one of his executive orders. In reality, when you actually look at the math, when you look at the people that affected, it was like maybe 0.3% of the American public who was helped by that. Now, look, good for those people, but it didn't help the majority of everything. And then once Biden gets, you know, the executive order done that says we're gonna basically expand these price savings to not just people going to these certain clinics, but for everybody who's like on a government plan. And Trump goes, nope, sorry. We have to take it away. We can't have the poor's getting access to, you know, the medicine that we need, you know, to just, you know, be ourselves and be gluttons or whatever. I don't care. Anyway. So, what's the next thing I want to talk about? Oh, yes. King Trump. I remember a while back on this program that I was discussing my concerns with Donald Trump and the possibility of him wanting to go for a third term. And there were people who doubted me. There were people who said that he wouldn't be able to do exactly what I said that I thought he might do. And my concern about talking about it too much, even though I'm a small podcast, was I didn't want to give them any ideas. I don't think they got the idea from me. But my concern, and I wish I had the audio, I wish I had the video or audio of this. I wish I could find that show where I was stating my concerns over Donald Trump trying to get a third term and how he might do it. And when I talked about that way back when, I basically said that the way that Donald Trump could try and do it would be to have, let's say, J.D. Vance run for president, have Donald Trump be the vice president candidate, the vice presidential candidate, and then once J.D. Vance gets elevated to and elected, he could just resign. Trump would then become president, and then Trump names Vance vice president again, and then you have a third term of Trump. And people are like, well, you can't be elected for a third term. Well, the specific wording on the 12th Amendment versus the specific wording on the 22nd Amendment makes me think that there's just enough wiggle room that the Supreme Court would say, if this happened, they would say the 22nd Amendment prohibits you from being elected president a third time. This wasn't him being elected president. And I think that what the 12th Amendment basically says that anything that would prohibit you from serving as president would prevent somebody from serving as vice president. But prevention from being elected and prevention from serving are two different things. That wording is in there, I think. I would say that the conservatives who would argue this and the conservative activists on the Supreme Court, like Justice Alito, would probably make some argument that basically says the reason for that wording, that you can't be vice president if you can't be president, is to basically say you have to be at least 35 years old to be vice president. You have to have, be a natural born citizen. These are the things that I think that is talking about, and not the future wording when they prohibited being elected for a third term. And I think that's where Trump, Bannon, who's been floating this, and any other conservatives who would support this would hang their hat. They would say he's not being elected president, therefore he can be elected vice president, and if he becomes president because J.D. Vance resigns, then you just found the loophole. Do I think that's the way it should work? No. Do I think that's the way that the people who drafted the 22nd Amendment, do I think that's what they were thinking? Or do they think that was their intent, to allow such loopholes to exist? No. However, that doesn't mean that they didn't word it incorrectly, or they didn't leave enough wiggle room in there for somebody to figure out that little trick and then be able to try it. And if with the right Supreme Court, which Donald Trump has the Supreme Court with 5 people or 6 people typically in his pocket, they would be able to, at least try this. So, and people are brushing it off. And again, this is why, another one of the reasons why the media is useless. People are brushing it off. People are saying, oh no, that would be impossible. But it might be, you might consider it to have been improbable in previous administrations when you didn't have an activist conservative Supreme Court. But don't just sit back and say, oh, this is just him trolling the libs. Oh, this is just him speaking out of his ass. Oh, this is just him saying silly things that he doesn't really mean. No, we can't afford that risk. We can't afford to just sit back and just pass off anything he says as a joke. But the media gets around, because the media said something about, they were talking about the wording in the Constitution, and they said that the wording in the Constitution says that you can't serve a third term, when the specific wording is you can't be elected a third term. Again, maybe I'm putting the Dan in pedantry. Maybe I'm worrying about nothing when it comes to this. Maybe the Supreme Court would grow a spine and vote 7-2 again, with Thomas and Alito supporting their good buddy Donald. And the other 7 would say, you know what, this is an abuse of the wording. This is not what they meant. Therefore, you can't run for a 3rd term. But then who would be responsible for, at the end of the day, according to the Supreme Court ruling that said that states couldn't keep people off of a ballot, because you remember that one, said states could not keep people off the ballots. It's not the job of the state to determine who can or cannot be eligible to run for president. They specifically said that in that ruling. They said that authority basically belongs to Congress when they count the Electoral College votes. If it's up to Congress and you have a Republican-led Congress, a Republican-controlled Congress, are they going to step up and be like, you know what, yeah, you shouldn't have been elected president. We are not going to count your Electoral College votes. Let that be the end of it. Or do you think that the congressional Republicans would say, sure, we'll believe your argument, your legal argument that you're making, and we'll go ahead and process and approve all of these Electoral College votes for a term of J.D. Vance, which is then going to become the 3rd term of Donald Trump? I mean, a lot of people are saying that. A lot of people will probably say, I haven't read the comments yet, will probably say, Dan, you're crazy. Dan, you're wrong. Dan, you're misinformed. People said the same thing when I said Donald Trump would be able to name 3 Supreme Court justices during his 1st term, and that Roe v. Wade would get overturned as a result. They said, no, there's no way he's going to be able to name 3 Supreme Court justices, and even if he does, there's no way that the Supreme Court justices that he would vote on or have appointed, there's no way that they would vote to overturn Roe v. Wade. Well, guess what? I was right on both counts. Everybody who's tried to claim that I was crazy for that, dead wrong. Yeah, I keep saying that Donald Trump, pointing at Donald Trump's similarities to how he's run for president and how he's tried to gain power in many similar ways as Adolf Hitler did back in Germany in the 1930s. People shrugged it off. Then he starts doing more Nazi crap. And of course, Donald Trump told the MSNBC anchor in the conversation that they had over whether or not a 3rd term would be considered. He didn't commit to any particular one, but he did say when she brought it up about J.D. Vance running and him being the VP, then J.D. Vance resigning, he said that's one way, but there are others. So who knows what those other ways might be? Who knows what's lurking in the minds of these fascists who are trying to have a coup and seize this country? And when you're in the middle of the coup, you can't turn your eyes on any possibilities, even if you think that they're improbabilities. Because if you let him sneak by and get it, then we're hosed just as well. Anyway, do you think I'm worrying about nothing? Do you think that I'm overblowing this? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel. Unless you're a Nazi or support a Donald Trump 3rd term, have a good day. Anyway, another one that I recorded. Cosmic Rose, please listen to House Sparks' take on the Senate Schumer issue. He kept the government open, so you can now complain. Otherwise, Felon 47 would declare martial law and it would be over. Please, people need to understand better. I mean, look, me and Hal agree on a lot of things. Me and Hal have been right about a lot of things when people have said that, you know, that we're wrong, and we're like, hey, we're right. We called this out and we predicted it, and we were, as Mona Lisa Vito would say, dead on balls accurate. That being said, there's some times where me and Hal disagree. So I would disagree with Hal on that particular issue, simply because of the fact that I don't see how much additional harm that he would have caused by having this government get shut down. Because I think if we would have forced the Republicans to call our bluff and would have shown a spine, they may very well have caved. But there's no way for us to have known if they would have caved without showing that we have a spine. If we don't have a spine, then they're never going to take us seriously. Not that they take us seriously much anyway, but they're never going to take the Democrats in the Senate seriously if the Democrats keep bending over backwards or forwards for Donald Trump, however he wants them to be. That's my issue with it. That's my thing. If they would have forced the issue, if they would have done a filibuster, if they would have, made them play chicken, then we could have a whole nother different story. However, because they didn't, it's all speculation at this point. So let's go back through the other comments in the YouTube chat. Chad, no, he does not have a mandate. Obama had a mandate. Reagan had a mandate. I mean, in Reagan's second term, he had an absolute huge mandate. Trump didn't even get 50% of the overall vote. Most people voted for candidates other than Donald Trump in this country. Yeah, he won some states that people were surprised, but I think Obama won a lot of states too, and people were refusing to say that Obama had a mandate. The same people who now say that Trump should have a mandate. Or most of them, at least. So, Stephanopoulos district GOP since the Civil War, but two-term Dem Owens during Obama is collapsing. The tariffs boycott from Quebec is destroying a population decreasing every year because of her. Let's see. False flag by Trump to suspend elections might be on the horizon. Potentially good. Cosmic Rose, I'm talking now. The government is open now. That's not speculation. Right, but it's speculation as to whether or not Donald Trump would have put in martial law, if we would have forced a government shutdown, if the Republicans wouldn't have caved because we forced them to either bring us to the table or say you get nothing. If they get nothing, then, we shouldn't be giving them anything in return.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Exactly. So I was trying to find that clip, and it was weirdly colored or whatever. So let's see. VD hurts, not a mandate at all when you don't even receive 50% of the vote. Yep, there you go. Trump loves the uneducated. Yes. In fact, the way he worded it, John Deff, was that Donald Trump, he said he loves the poorly educated, and he did so after the 2016 Nevada primaries, when polling showed that he did very well amongst the poorly educated. I think it's the only people that Donald Trump has ever said that he loved are the poorly educated. And what the kicker on that one is always that Donald Trump supporters are constantly trying to prove themselves worthy of that love over and over and over again. Trump's only mandate is Elon. Yeah, pretty much. But which one's the pitcher, which one's the catcher? So it depends on which metrics you use for the mandate, says Chad. Obama won Indiana, that was the mandate. There you go. Pretty much. Yeah, I don't believe that there's any metrics except for false ones that would say there's a mandate there. Let's see. The headline ban was Oh, that's interesting. That they had a headline ban for Seven Dust. Nice. Or was Seven Dust? Let's just kind of scroll through. Eliminate election security is a perfect way to make all votes for him, just like Putin. Yeah, exactly, Robin. And one of the things that I, have said that I worry about, because Donald Trump wants all paper ballots and no electronic. They want to hand count paper ballots, which is going to take ridiculously too long to do. A. B. What would make it, if I'm sitting there and I'm Donald Trump and I have a bunch of, ballots in my hands or whatever, it's like, oh, look, here are these paper ballots. I'm a Trump supporter and I'm working in the thing. Here are all these paper ballots that were voted. No, they voted for Democrats. Oh, well, they got lost. Too bad. Oh, and here's the paperwork for all that stuff too. They could just toss that as well. That's my issue with the going to strictly paper ballot. And that's what I think Donald Trump would want to do. Just toss out any ballots that he doesn't agree with, because he's already said that that's what he wanted people to stop counting. He demanded that the states stop counting in 2020 because if they didn't stop counting, he knew that he was going to lose. So he wanted to tell states to stop counting legitimately cast ballots. that's how Donald Trump thinks he has to stay in power. Now, of course, he won this time because stupidity, but, you know.
It is what it is.
Cosmic Rose, you don't give abusers an inch, they'll take 100 miles. That's my point, though. My point is that by Schumer caving to the Republicans, that Schumer is giving the Republicans everything. That he's giving them everything that they want by not fighting and instead voting for it. If they don't think they need our help, fuck them. Let them pass it without our help. If they can pass it without our help, great. But they wouldn't be able to. It was barely able to get done in the House. And with the Senate, you have the filibuster. Use the filibuster. Use whatever. You only have a little bit of power at this point, and you're not even willing to use that to protect American people. And yeah, if there was a government shutdown, it would hurt. It would hurt a lot of people. But maybe it would hurt some of the people who are not going to get hurt the other way. Those people need to start feeling the pain. Now, I don't want, marginalized, oppressed, disenfranchised folks. I don't want anybody to be hurt at all, period. But if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. I mean, Donald Trump might think, Stormy Daniels might have something different to say about what somebody gets when they give an inch. But anyway, let's see, VD, would raising taxes on corporations be a tax on regular people? That really depends, Chad, on the price elasticity of demand of the goods or services that those corporations are selling. If you're selling wooden pencils and you raise taxes on the corporations that would sell the pencils, then it might not, because there are other goods that other people selling the same pencils who might be willing to sell it for cheaper. But on things like gasoline, who cares? I mean, the oil markets themselves, the oil producers themselves, restrict and, output as they see fit in order to make sure that they can have higher prices on oil to manipulate the markets. So, and for many things driving, there's certain people that have to drive a certain amount regardless of what the gas price is, and as such, they will have to eat it somewhere else, and the people selling the gas be like, okay, good, more money for me. There you go. Vidi Hertz says 3 GOP presidents during the 1920s, each piling on tariffs, driving the USA into a Great Depression, culminating with the stock market crash in 1929. Exactly. Smoot Hawley. If you've watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off, everybody should know that. Anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs? Did it work? No, it did not work, and the United States fell deeper and deeper into the Great Depression. Of course, over the weekend I was playing a game at a friend's house, and somebody was talking randomly, and it just sounded like another line from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which is like, my best friend's sister's brother's boyfriend knows this guy who knows this girl who's going out with the kid who saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night. I guess it's pretty serious. Anyway, well, my mind may be full of a lot of knowledge about politics, but it's also full of a lot of useless knowledge as well. Yeah, John Deff. Oh, those poor corporations. Boo-hoo. Let's cry for the corporations who might have to pay higher taxes, who might not be able to, give, millions of dollars of bonuses to their executives. Boo-hoo. The thing that comes with tariffs is that, if you really wanted to do tariffs in a way that was going to be a protection on the people of this country or the corporations in this country, you would also then need to do something that says that's going to protect the citizenry from those cost hikes. But the way that Donald Trump is planning on doing it is like what? He wants to potentially offer up a tax rebate for buying an American vehicle to offset the fact that you've paid more money for that vehicle. How is that efficient? That's just adding more bureaucracy and more mess into the whole thing, which of course we all know that DOGE has nothing to do with efficiency. DOGE is adding inefficiencies to the government, and what do they do? Whatchamacallit, where is the thing? No, it's not that. The entire staff at the federal agency that funds libraries and museums has been put on leave.
DOJ is turning its attention to massive government contracts, and consulting firms are scrambling to justify their... I don't want to hear
Fox News business. It just randomly started playing all of a sudden. Institute of Museum and Library Services has placed its entire staff on administrative leave. The IMLS is a small federal agency with about 70 employees that awards grant funding to museums and libraries across the United States. This month, Trump named Keith Sonderling as Deputy Secretary of Labor as the new acting director of IMLS, following Trump's executive order shrinking 7 federal agencies, including IMLS. According to the statement, which represents from AFGE Local 3403, which represents IMLS workers, the agency staff was notified by email about being placed on paid administrative leave for 90 days after a brief meeting with DOJ staff and IMLS leadership. Employees had to turn in government property and email accounts were disabled. How are they going to get in contact with them, with the people with the nuclear stockpiles, so that they couldn't get in contact with them because their email addresses went away and they had to turn back in all of their federal government property? How are you going to get, if you need these people back, how are you going to do that? Huh? But, being said, how is it efficient to give people paid leave? How is that efficient? How is that creating government efficiency? By telling people that they could stay home and not work and get a paycheck. You know, one of the big lies about government efficiency and the attempts to try and make government supposedly more efficient was that people working from home don't work. That people working from... There's no way you can determine whether or not somebody working from home is doing work or not. Hell, when I work from home, I do work from home, and I want to make sure that my output is accurate and up to date and good quality, so I can continue justifying them having me work from home. So to me, working from home puts more pressure on the employees in some particular circumstances, because they then have to justify their being there and doing the work instead of actually having to come into an office. But it's a totally boomer idea that people working from home is somehow a bad thing. But, you know, and if more people work from home for federal government, guess what would happen? You wouldn't have to have as many buildings open. You wouldn't have to pay for as much electricity. You know, people could just be, you know, sitting at home instead of using gasoline. And if they were working federal vehicles or whatever, using a federal vehicle or government vehicle, whatever, to get back and forth to work, if that's the case, if that's what they use, then guess what? They're going to, you know, be more efficient and get more stuff done. 2 hours maybe a day, or maybe less, I don't know, depending on how long it takes for you to commute to work. Less time commuting is more time for everybody to be efficient, whether or not you're on the job or off the clock. They don't care. They don't care one bit. They just want to fire people and take the chainsaw, because that's all. When I hear Doge and whatever, and oh, we're making government efficient, no, I see Elon Musk swinging a big old chainsaw, not giving a crap about who he hurts. Yeah, 250 kiloohms. Workers from home put in more hours in my experience. Look, well, I have a work computer at home. I have it here. There are times when I have to get stuff done. I can work on it at home. I've worked on it nights, weekends, overnights, stayed up late. I'll probably stay up late tonight a little more, working on the thing that I have to work on for tomorrow. Although I did something earlier today that actually made my program more efficient, so I'm going to be able to hammer these things out more quickly and hopefully be able to get a couple of things to show tomorrow morning instead of just one. Let's see. Trucker John says, those government workers are vital to running the country. Yes, they are, 100%. Let's see. I'm not okay with the job. I would say to government workers that they told coal miners learn to code. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily what they should have told coal miners. I don't know if that actually did happen or not. But, you know, if you're a coal miner, M-I-N-E-R, make it clear to any YouTube censors who think we're talking about something else. I would have said, you know, maybe we could get the people working in these coal industries to start working in like alternative energy industries. Train them to have the new job in a newer environment. Or better yet, we should just have a universal basic income, because when a post-scarcity society that we may come up to at some point, when everything becomes automated, then what do people do? Of course, me and Hal did have this conversation, and you have to watch inflationary issues when you have universal basic income, because with UBI, you're basically injecting money into the economy. But to me, that would also then allow people to be like, hey, I now have the ability to negotiate a better salary, because I no longer am required to take this pissy, terrible job that pays like crap in order to, pay the bills. But anyway, see, Trump is trying to force constitutional things in front of his Supreme Court. I think Schumer was right too, but I'm not sure. We'll have to stall until the midterms. I mean, that's the thing. How do you stall until the midterms if you don't use the filibuster? That's my problem. And again, I have no problem with Cory Booker with what he was doing just now that we were watching for a few minutes. I have no problem with that. But they should be doing it to stop legislation from passing that's going to harm people. So, see, there would be no voting tomorrow if government was shut down. Would state governments stop running? I don't think a government shutdown would prevent state governments from holding elections. I don't believe that's the case. Coal miners, maybe in Florida, especially in Pizzagate's, Matt Pizzagate's district. He probably has some coal miners. But yeah, I don't believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Can states hold elections when the federal government shuts down? I completed it for me. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything specifically answering that question. Nothing AI popped up. However, I unless shown otherwise, and you can email me liberaldanradio@gmail.com if you have a link to show it otherwise. And if you prove me wrong, I will crack. My voice cracked. If you prove me wrong, I'll abso-frickin-lutely admit it on the show and say, hey, mea culpa, I was wrong. Whatever. But I don't think that a federal government shutdown would stop congressional elections from taking place. So maybe it might stop them from taking office. It might stop them from, actually being sworn in because, government shutdown. But again, 2 less Republicans. Or, maybe it would be 2 more Democrats. But again, I'm not going to hold my breath and think that these Democrats are going to win these elections. I guess it all doesn't matter because there's no government shutdown because Schumer caved. That's the thing. I'm not gonna repeat this over and over again. I'm just gonna say it one last time. I just reject the idea that it was the right idea to just give the Republicans what they wanted. Disagree. Just completely. Look, Cosmic Rose, I love having you on the show and love having you in the chat and appreciate you, coming over here. Want you to do it more often. This just one particular issue we just will have to disagree on. So let's see. There's no reason these days for anyone working to become homeless. Exactly. There's no reason for people working in the military to have to be on food stamps, but here we go. I had an interesting conversation, by the way. I had to go into Kia because I have more Kia drama, but I didn't really feel like talking about that today. Lots of other stuff to talk about. I had to go into Kia to get my oil changed. And the reason I went to Kia specifically to get my oil changed is because I needed them to fix my headlight. Why did I need them to fix my headlight? Because if you look up a video on how to change the headlight of a Kia Seltos, it is not the easy thing that one would hope that it would be. Like, when I have my van still, my Toyota Sienna, 2013 Toyota Sienna, I hope if I need to change the headlights, I open up the hood, I put the little thing up to hold the hood up, I reach down, I turn where the light is, turn it so that it comes unlocked, pull it out, replace the bulb, put it back in, spin, done. No more than 5 minutes unless I'm having difficulties. There's been times where I've had a difficulty or two where something just wouldn't turn right or whatever, or I was too hot, I was overheating, blah, blah, blah. But the Seltos, you can't do that. You can't just go into the engine and turn the you have to turn your tires, you have to get down, you have to remove paneling between the tires and the area where the lights are, like in the wheel well, and then you have to go in and then unscrew something else to then get at the light, and then put everything back. At that point, I was just like, it's going to cost me $30 to change this? Fine, $30 to change this, and you can do the work for me. And then it turns out that Amazon sold me the wrong bulb. So I had to pay them for the bulb that they were replacing anyway. It's ridiculous. Anyway. See, Trucker John, the people I personally know that voted for Trump say they don't believe he takes anyone, and that Jean Carroll is a liar. That's how they justify their vote. Well, yeah, exactly. So I'm back. I'm a free enterprise. In a free enterprise system, taxing corporations would not be a tax on regular people because competition would keep prices intact. Right now, CEOs are reaping the millions for themselves, no one else. I mean, I'm going to clip that on Twitch because that was 100% accurate. I can't say it any better. So that'll be me quoting you, Mad Mac, is now clipped on my Twitch. See, Chris. Hey, Krista, good to see you. I don't know if I said hello, John Deff, but hey, John Deff, and look, someone gave you a damnable membership. So there you go. Yes, Chris, the state runs their own elections, and that's why I don't think that state elections are not going to be harmed. Wouldn't be harmed by federal shutdown. So we're not rehashing that over again. Well, the phone lines are. Let's see. Dan's got to open the phone lines. Fine. Chad, if you want to call in. We can have a discussion. The lines are open. 562-LibDan1, 562-LibDan1, 562-542-3261. Why are you guys so insistent I call in? I mean, if you don't want to call in, it's fine. But let's see. Easy Network. Exactly. The problem is we allowed corporations to call. We allowed the government to call corporations people. One of the other problems is that we allowed the stock market to happen. Stocks are ridiculous. Like, the fact that we allow all this stuff to happen with the stock market that should never happen. Like, short sales should never happen. The fact that we allow so much market manipulation to go on, we should have never allowed stock markets to be a thing. Stock markets are a creation of the capitalist elite ruling class to help them get richer while everyone else stays poor. So let's see. Good night, Suzanne. Hey, good night, Suzanne. Big Hook's like, anyone else want to call in? They're trying to draft Chad to call in, and you're welcome to call in, Chad. You know, I mean, hell, Chad's probably given more super chats than a lot of people. I mean, not that you could just buy me, but I do appreciate the fact that he's been a supporter of the show, despite the fact that, you know, we disagree on a decent amount, and he does get a lot of grief in the chat. You know, I'm not begrudging the grief because, again, I don't understand why somebody who seems to be as reasonably intelligent as Chad is, I don't understand how you could continue to support Donald Trump. And that's the thing. Especially after Chad. I would love to hear your opinion, Chad, on Executive Order 14188. Or any other conservative for that matter. I want to hear other conservatives talking about the Executive Order 14188. And again, for a brief synopsis, if you haven't seen the video of me ranting about that yet, the short one or the longer one where I discussed it from the last show, that executive order was supposed to be about fighting anti-Semitism, but those numbers, 14/88, are Nazi numbers. 14 being the 14 words that Nazis talk about to preserve and secure the future for our children, or whatever Nazi crap they talk about, and 88, H being the 8th letter of the alphabet, HH standing for HH meaning Hail Mustache Man or whatever. And then the one in the middle, the 14 and the 88, is basically just the slash. If you go to ADL's website, and I showed that on one of the videos, yeah. So I don't believe that that's a coincidence. I don't believe that that is anything other than Nazis being Nazis. But the Nazi apologists and the Nazi excusers and the Nazi supporters and any other way you want to refer to them as will try and downplay the threats that Nazis cause. I'm still highly disappointed that that video doesn't have more views than it should. I don't know if YouTube actually has me shadow banned at this point, because that one should have gotten a lot of views, I think, just from getting people from the algorithm in to go see it. But as we all know, especially when it comes to Liberal Dan Radio, Al Gore definitely needs more rhythm. So, see, Chad Bostic, if that isn't a coincidence, I wholeheartedly disagree with it. I mean, here's the thing. I can't imagine or fathom, picture the world where that was a coincidence. And that's the thing, is that there were 4 executive orders signed that day. One of them being 14-188. Why wasn't if it was just purely random that those happened on that day, ignoring that, randomly assigning, if you just picked things out of a hat, there was only a 25% chance of that executive order being that if it was just a coincidence. Let that, now combine that with what are the odds that those executive orders, took place that day instead of the days before, the days after. I wouldn't know how to calculate that bit of probability, because, I mean, 300 executive orders or however many executive orders. Let's look that number up specifically. How many? Oh, stop it. Doing it again. How many executive orders has Trump signed this year? In 2025, Donald Trump has signed 103 executive orders from 14-147 to 14-249. So 103 executive orders. What are the odds that that particular day gets that particular one, and then on that particular day, the odds are so infinitesimal of that happening that it can't be a coincidence. Which is just Donald Trump. I mean, look, somebody was like, well, what if it was just somebody administration? That just means that Donald Trump surrounds himself with Nazis. But we all knew that. I mean, Musk gave the mustache man salute, as you have to say on TikTok. There's Big Hook. Let's answer for Big Hook. And I actually managed to turn off the my ringer on my phone so that we don't have to hear and the potential music, man in the box, if you will. Hey, Big Hook, good to see you. Good to hear from you. How was your weekend?
About the same as yours. We were watching all the disasters occurring. Watching people suffer who don't need to suffer needlessly, and call out for help and are being ignored by Trump and all the rest of the sycophants who somehow think that the poor aren't suffering enough. It's quite dispiriting,
Oh, I agree.
The psychopaths, the psychopaths seem to be in charge, and seem to enjoy watching people suffer. And the louder we are, the more they seem to come up with more stupid shit to inflict upon us. So I don't know. It's do you think he's going to back out on the tariffs come Wednesday?
I don't know. He's played so many games with these tariffs that it's again, sometimes it's hard to take Trump seriously on face value of the things that he does. Like, is he doing the tariffs because he wants to, I don't believe it's to help American businesses, not one bit. But is he doing it to do stock market manipulation? Well, do they keep buying the dip? Is that what they're doing with this? But honestly, I can't see him not going forward with it unless somebody majorly kisses his ass. So that's what he that's what he is. That's what he needs. He needs either someone to kiss his ass. He needs somebody to give him something in return. He's as we all know, he's a transactional type person. He wants, if he's going to give you A, he wants B. Which maybe that's something Chuck Schumer. I'm sorry, I said I wasn't going to talk about that anymore. But wait, hold on. You won't hear this, but
it is what it is.
They will. Thank you, Donald. Yeah, Mike DeWine called it out.
Well,
should have too. Yep.
I think that's, I mean, right now, I think the big thing is to hold on to the Signalgate scandal and put that albatross around his neck, as well as all the people that he's put in charge of this thing. I mean, you have puppy killer Kristi Noem there, who decided she had to have her moment in the spotlight, showing what an evil bitch she truly is. Mm-hmm. I mean, you guys are running a villain squad of no conscience. I mean, even the most reasonable one that we thought was reasonable is Marco Rubio is basically playing the same evil, spiteful bullshit and trying to justify stuff, which is, I mean, I'll bet you he cannot buy any food in any restaurant currently in Florida without somebody spitting in it at this point, because he is really shown what a turncoat he is.
Yep.
I mean,
and at the beginning, I was like, look, of all of the picks that Donald Trump picked, I was the least concerned about Rubio, because of the fact that, all the other ones were even shittier. But even now, I mean, Rubio is just proving himself that he's more than willing to go down into the shit and be just as shitty himself. So maybe it's no difference as to whether if he would have had Marco Rubio versus, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, at this point, what would be the difference except the accent?
Well, that, and then, Vance going to Greenland and basically going, oh, they treated us so horribly. And it's like, hello, you just fucking came in and said, oh, we're going to take over Greenland. And you didn't ask anybody, and you just called it out and then said, oh, well, we're here. We're here. It's like, he's pretending to be like Columbus coming over to save the natives.
Yeah,
save the natives. It's the same.
We all know what Columbus
it's
did.
like, it's the same bullshit rhetoric. Oh, we're here to help. Here, take these blankets full of smallpox, and measles. And we will sign a contract with you for some glass beads for all of the land. It's beyond credible at this point, and nobody, and the thing is that you got to realize as well, the Europeans are the most educated of the lot, so they saw through his bullshit 10 miles away. They should have just refused to let them land. I mean, the fact that they had to land at a military base, because I'll bet you Greenland probably said, no, we're not going to let you land here. You got no business here. We don't want to hear from your representative because he doesn't say anything nice. He has nothing to offer, I mean, the whole thing was such a farce and such a disaster. It was beyond words. I mean, and the thing is that Americans are going to be hated all across the world at this point, because your reputation now is in tatters, because you're basically saying, oh, you're all on your own. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We're not the good folk that you remember us from before. We're all assholes now, and you're going to have to, do what you got to do. And, I mean, it's shameful.
It is.
It is shameful. It really is, because there's so many good people, and they're going to all be painted with the same brush thanks to these assholes. And that's what bothers me the most. I mean, I know there are so many of you out there that are good people, and you're all going to be painted with the same brush, that you're racist assholes who don't care about anybody but yourselves. And, and you can't even be bothered to help the people who need help within your own country. Oh, we can't send any money to Ukraine because we have people suffering here already. And it's like, yeah, but you don't help the people that are suffering here already as it is.
No, they don't.
So what's your argument?
Well, that they're hoping to get away with it. That's what they're hoping. That's why we need better media. That's why we need people out there pushing and discussing these things, because at this point, I don't trust, most of the pundits out there to get it right. And I've been harping on this for a while now, but I don't trust, when you have, like Joe and Mika on MSNBC running down to Mar-a-Lago after the election to go kiss the ring, kiss his ass, or do whatever it is they want to do. That I already thought both of them were just a bunch of dullards, but then now they're just traitors.
Yeah,
dullards.
But what gets me about Joe and Mika right now is Joe keeps trying to make light of everything all the time, and he just he'll make little quips here and there. He'll take little jabs, but he won't be serious. He won't say anything directly bad about Trump anymore, and just says, oh, well, this is the administration trying something. It's like, it's not the administration. It's a bunch of fucking billionaires who think that the poor, aren't suffering enough and that they need to suffer more, because then they can take the last little bit of dignity as well as wealth and health. And, they have decided human worth based on class. And it is really disparaging. It really is, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to go, oh, you can't come in here. You can't do this. You can't do that. Oh, no. You don't lie and steal and cheat enough.
Need to interrupt. Chad Bostic said something accurate in the chat. He says, yeah, MSNBC showed everyone real quick what matters more, the ideas they claim to support, or the paychecks they receive. Absolutely 100%. Dead on accurate. I did want to get your opinion on something, Big Hook. Do you really believe, what do you think that we should believe or we should think on the reporting today that Donald Trump is apparently very angry and pissed off with Vladimir Putin after weeks of trying to negotiate a ceasefire in Ukraine? I'm calling bullshit. I don't believe it for 1 second.
It's bullshit. When has Trump ever told the truth? He's lost face so many times. That's why that orange putty that he puts on his face is to make up for all the crap, all the face that he's lost already throughout his life. He's, those who know him best know the fact that he's full of shit, and that he is a billionaire on paper, but in reality, he has absolutely nothing in cash. He doesn't have anything that isn't owed already to the banks, or is constantly, in receivership. The question is Putin is probably putting that script in front of him and saying, yes, I'll take a couple of knocks here and there just to give you an out. Because Putin isn't going to do anything.
Some so-called legitimacy that does actually exist for him trying to be. Putin's probably like, listen, Donald. You can pretend to be bold for a bit, play strong for the American media. You're my bitch, so just you can attack me a few days and then we'll make a deal that make me rich. So.
Well, he said, oh yeah, Vlad said that he would stop hitting the Ukrainian energy sector within Ukraine. And what happened? Literally 3 hours later, they started lobbing missiles at the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Everything he says is a lie. You can't take anything that he says as truth. I think hell is thinking, God, if he ever shows up, he's going to try and take over. That's the way it is. Because obviously Donald isn't smart enough to take over hell, but Vlad certainly is. He's evil incarnate. The guy is just,
problem is that
I mean,
I don't know how many people who Putin is over that would actually join him down in hell, whereas Elon Musk and his group would. I mean, those people will all follow Musk down there willingly like lemmings. So if Musk goes down there, Musk would probably try and take the whole thing over as well, then privatize it and sell it sell it for parts or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. Everything is up in the air. I mean, Canadians up here, I mean, a lot of our retirement savings are also invested in the U.S. stock market. So, it's not just that he's hurting you guys, he's hurting us as well. And, and then it doesn't help that he keeps doing all this governor of Canada and 51st state shit that constantly pisses people off. And people are like, oh, there are certain people that I've met who have been like, oh, just ignore him, he'll go away eventually. And it's like, no, he's not going to go away. That's the whole point.
You can't ignore that. That's the thing. Like, what you can't
until he dies. And and if he's managed to stay the hell out of jail, he will have succeeded. But that's the thing. If he lets go of power, he knows that the law will eventually come after him, and that he will be held to account. Now, the real problem is that there's all these people that are behind him. I mean, at this point, all he's doing is signing executive orders, which means that he's not in control. Other people are running the show. And the question I have is who will make them be held to account? Because that's the real question. Because, it's just like with Rachel Maddow. She showed with the Ultra series that there were people who had crawled out from underneath their rocks and decided that they were Nazi collaborators and white supremacists and all the rest of it. And, when Trump is done and, and things start to, and, they have to decide, okay, what's more important? Do we prosecute these people or do we pick up the pieces as quickly as possible and try to save what's left of America? I wonder what's going to happen, because otherwise these people will just try and take another stab at it. This is like their third stab at it, trying to wreck America. You had Nixon, who tried it first. Then you had Reagan, who tried it next. Then you had Bush, who decided, oh, well, let's turn the security agencies and do a collection of everybody's data and phone calls and everything else. And then, brought about the FISA courts and all the rest of it, and just saying, oh, yeah, well, we trust the judges to decide who's relevant and who's not, And I mean, it just became an all-out paranoia game where it was like, oh, this could happen and that could happen and whatever. And it's like, yeah, but what happened? What was the lead up to 9/11 happening? Bush went out there and told them, oh, yeah, we're taking all the air marshals off because, we haven't had a hijacking in over 15 years. I mean, like, talk about calling out your weakness and then saying, and basically, telling them exactly what to do. I mean, and Trump is going to do the same thing. I think he's going to go to war with Iran. I do. I really think he's going to do it because he's trying to distract from all the other crazy shit that he's doing already. And that, there'll be too much stuff to look at and get obsessed with, that he can slide a whole bunch of other stuff under the table that no one will realize until it's too late. I mean, you guys had Jason Stanley and Timothy Snyder are now going to Toronto, Canada now to teach, because they apparently don't like what they saw in El Salvador. I mean,
well, I mean,
that's pretty.
The El Salvador thing is like, everyone, the conservatives are like, oh, these people can be sent there. They don't get due process. Like the bizarre, like how much conservatives claim to love the Constitution, which we all know they don't. or most of them at least, they claim to love the Constitution, but it clearly states in the Constitution where rights and privileges that belong to citizens clearly are denoted in the Constitution as being for citizens. Everything else is for persons or individuals or one or whatever. They don't use the word citizen. So due process is something that everybody's supposed to be able to get, even people accused of terrible crimes. And that they won't give it to them, just, and these people are like, well, they don't deserve it because they're not here legally. Well, shouldn't they have the Trump administration have to prove that they're not here legally? Shouldn't they have to prove that there's a crime, or at least show us that here's the crime that they're accused of committing before deporting them out or whatever? But
yeah, the due process. Yeah,
they don't like. What's going to stop them from coming after them, you next, or me, or whatever? I mean, not you, because you're in Canada, and so since you're not the 51st state yet, they can't necessarily come after you without it being the military. They supposedly can't use the military on us because of the Posse Comitatus Act, but who knows?
I wouldn't put it past him.
He's trying to get them to do operations down at the border when it comes to detaining people who are undocumented migrants. Of course, I don't believe the numbers that Donald Trump's administration is giving on, border crossings and apprehensions either, because it's very easy for them to say if that apprehensions and arrests have dropped if you're not counting them. Just like Donald Trump said in Tulsa that he wanted them to stop testing because if you have testing, you have more cases. He doesn't want it. He didn't want testing because he didn't want to know people to know about those cases. So that's the reason why I can't believe Donald Trump on the border numbers or on anything else really, because he's always going to do something that's going to make him look better as opposed to something that will actually help people.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's all about human worth now. The billionaires think that they're better than everybody else. And, let's face it, they either stole it or they inherited it. That's how it works. So they're either criminal geniuses or their parents were criminal geniuses who handed them a silver platter, I mean, and the thing is that they're basically telling people, oh, this is your lot in life. This is what is expected of you. If you're a maggot, it's like we expect total loyalty. If Trump says jump, you say how high. If he says grab your guns and start shooting and let the paramedics sort it out, it's chaos because these people are, they're fifth grade comprehension level reading and, they don't know any better. And it doesn't help that they get all their news and their comprehension from Fox, who lie continuously and feed them falsehoods and stoke the paranoia. And, you guys are going through a mental health crisis. That's probably the best way to put it, because you guys believe crap that isn't probable. You have a level of paranoia that isn't healthy. You don't have a system which allows people to get medical help when it's necessary. You allow loopholes where guns are available everywhere, and these people who are on the verge of either committing suicide or taking out as many as they possibly can because they're so angry at the world that, they want to make a name for themselves. I mean, I don't know. I mean, does any of what I'm saying not, sound true to what America is today?
I mean, I have never doubted anything you said when it comes to everything. I think you're spot on accurate with all this stuff. So I think, and it's good for us to hear the worries of our neighbors, because we should be worried about our neighbors. We should be worried about the other countries. The fact that the Trump administration and Musk and Doge or whatever, the fact that they're not worried about what happens to other nations just means that they don't have any morality. Like the fact that, they're mad that we sent condoms or other ways to help fight STIs or HIV, specifically in Africa, is just, bizarre. Like, that's something that, us as the, strongest economy, the strongest country in the world, supposedly, That's something that we should be taking the lead on to help fight and combat these things, but we won't. Instead, we go backwards, and now the conservatives are going to, try and get these Supreme Court rulings to stop requiring people to have to cover, PrEP and other types of stuff to help people here from getting HIV, especially the people who are higher risk, like people in, same-sex, relationships. But
it's like I said, it's the human worth formula, because they've all decided that it's like eugenics with the Nazis. They had, a skin color chart. They had measurements for skulls and other things, and so that way they could pseudoscience their conclusions that everybody except for the Aryan race were not superior, that they were smarter and that they had the better genes and all the rest of it, I mean, it's just insanity taken to, the depths of cruelty, here's the question that I have, which is, like, Biden tried it the first time. He did the first one, which was the Build Back Better, and it was going to be, what was it? They were estimating it was going to be between $5 and $9 trillion of investment in the U.S.
Right.
And, and this is the thing, because most of the Americans were like, yeah, that sounds like a great plan. We need to reinvent ourselves and give everybody what's necessary to succeed. And, what did we get? We got Sinema and Manchin, the two sellouts who wouldn't go along with it, and this is the thing, everybody, and this is where the Democrats keep getting shit kicked, is because they have things, but they can only do little things as opposed to gigantic things, because their hands are tied by sellouts as well as corporatists who refuse to do what's in the best interest of America.
Thanking Jolie for gifting 10 Liberal Dan memberships of 10 more Liberal Danimals because of Jolie. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Jolie. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Turtle Toes.
Yes. I did play the I Like Turtle sound for her as well, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even like they say Manchin was a turncoat. I don't even know why Manchin was a Democrat in the first place. Like, Manchin is more conservative than the Republican governor of West Virginia back when he was still senator. So, like, I don't get I don't see any place where Manchin could hang his hat and be like, I'm a Democrat. It just never made any sense. So,
but for all the debt that Trump incurred, what did you have to show for it? Outside of the vaccine,
lots of dead
people.
There
was nothing.
Hundreds of thousands of additional people dead because of the COVID-19 virus, the pandemic.
That's he went and he got Trump. It. Yeah, he went and he got it made, and then he said, "Oh, yeah, it's your choice whether or not to take it or not."
Right.
And he played double devil with the whole affair, and but this is the thing: people want the big change, and unfortunately it won't come because there are just too many people that are bought and paid for who will come up with these semantic arguments that we can't do this because if we tax the billionaires they'll all run away. And it's like, yeah, so if they run away, where are they going to go?
Yeah, my argument to that has always been, if the billionaires of the world don't want our military defending them and defending their wealth, they're free to go to some other country, but I doubt that other country is going to be able to defend their wealth as good as we would, so maybe it's time to shell out a little protection. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like I said, I think it's a worth society now, because Republicans look at us now and they go, "Oh, you just think you're smart, but you're not," because I believe that the color of my skin is where my worth is, and my beliefs that don't coincide with the rest of the world. It's like, God Almighty, it's stupidity on steroids.
It is.
It doesn't make any sense, and we're all looking at this and we're going, these people walk amongst us and they're zombies. They have these beliefs that are so out of tune. I mean, they're the equivalent of the flat earthers. They refuse to believe anything, and even when they're given conclusive proof, they go, well, yeah, well, that's your opinion. It's like, fuck off.
Right. This is the thing. This happens all the time. Like people start asking me, like I was having a discussion on some Facebook group that I'm in about, Trump and his supporters being Nazis. And they're like, well, give me an example, because they don't believe it. Even though the fact that I'm a Jewish person with lots of education as to how to determine what is anti-Semitic and what's not. But that being said, it's always the same thing. I will tell them Donald Trump ran for president. He campaigned in 2016 on a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the country. That's what he campaigned on. Scapegoating an entire religion, which is exactly what Hitler did. One of the many things that Hitler did that Trump has also done. They're like, well, that's not what he did when he got into office. I'm like, I'm not talking about when he got into office. I'm not talking about the executive order he signed. It's like, I don't understand why they can't understand the simple concept of the fact that I don't like what he said during the campaign, because it tells us ultimately where he wants to end up. And, if I'm talking about that, don't change the subject to what he actually implemented, because do we wait for Nazis to do what they fully want to do, or do we stop them when they start doing what they want to do? The other thing is that a lot of these MAGA conservative type folks don't understand is that when we talk about Nazis, we're not talking about the 1944 Nazis. We're not talking about, height of World War II Nazis. We're talking about the 1933 Nazis, the as they're gaining power, when you didn't have concentration camps built, when you didn't have, all that stuff, all the infrastructure used to kill people built. That's when we need to stop the Nazis, not when they become full-blown concentration camp running, everybody getting locked up, locking up all your political enemies, blah, blah, blah. You don't stop it. You can't stop them when it's at that point, at least internally. But internally, you can stop them if you stop them early enough. And unfortunately, we keep missing that boat. We keep missing the boat to be able to stop it. Anyway, I do want to maybe end the show in about 15 minutes. But
can I just let me put one recommendation?
Yes, go ahead.
Politics Girl had John Lithgow reading the On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, and he read the whole list of the 20 on her channel there. And anybody who isn't up to snuff on that should go watch it. John Lithgow did a masterful job, and I think it's the best PSA out there that's necessary for the times right now. And I think that should be your homework for tonight, is to watch that. Because
I fully endorse that. Go watch Politics Girl any other time as well, but maybe one day I'll be big enough to have a celebrity read stuff that I want them to read on my channel too. But, until then, we'll get to see it on other channels like on Politics Girl or whatever. I mean, I do have Hal Sparks on every once in a while, so, I mean, I have had him on before, so that's my celebrity, I guess. So I'm happy to have Hal as a celebrity too. So anyway, I'm hoping to get him back on sometime in the next week or two. I have a new, and actually if I start getting to be able to interview more people who are, more famous, I have a bit that I want to do with them that I'm going to start off with Hal, so we'll see when that happens. But anyway, thank you so much, Big Hook, for calling in. Appreciate you as always, and you have a good rest of your night.
You as well, and all your Danimals out there, hang in there. Protest every day. Make Elon poor, because he can't hold on if nobody buys his shit.
Exactly.
Anyway, thanks.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Okay.
All right,
Bye.
That was Big Hook. Big Hook, everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciate you as always. Make sure to mute it so you didn't hear the hang-up sound. One funny thing about John Lithgow. I was watching something on TV, and I was like, that guy looks familiar, and I don't exactly know why this person looks familiar, but he just looks familiar. And the one word out of my mouth was, he looks like John Lithgow on Wish, or John Lithgow from Temu. Like, it didn't look exactly like John Lithgow, but he looked like it was John Lithgow. Like, well, we have John Lithgow at home. Here's John Lithgow at home. Turns out, it was his son. the guy was John Lithgow's son, and that's why I thought he looked so familiar, because he looked exactly like John. He looked like John Lithgow, like, or could be related to him. So that was funny. Let's see. 250 kilo ohm. Yes, military trucks are heading to Big Bend. I did see that. A couple things I wanted to also record while we get this out of the way. A friend of mine shared this with me on Facebook, and it's like shared by the president of a large nonprofit organization who is also a CPA. And I'm like, take whatever is being said here in this with a grain of salt. I can't speak to its entire veracity or truthfulness or whatever, but I think it brings up another point that I want to raise. Doge is it says, please download your social security records. Doge is erasing and changing files. Those who work in high positions within social security department are sounding the alarm. Elon Musk and Trump are about to cause the social security department to collapse. Their most important advice is to go to your social security account, download a hard copy of your lifetime work record. Go to SSA.gov website. At the top of the page, you want to go to the category card and record, go to the personal record, print out the earnings record, hold on to it in your personal records. If you have never been to the website before, you'll need to create an account. It's been a long time since you logged into the account. You may have to create a new account. They've changed the sign-in procedure for greater security. This may seem extreme, but if Musk deletes all social security records in the purge, you don't have a copy of your own information. They could easily say that you don't have a work record and deny you social security payments. If you have a copy of your own records, denying you will be much more difficult. If you don't need it, no foul. If we do need it, we better have access to it. So it can't hurt for you to download your social security records. It can't hurt one bit. However, when it comes to Musk, this is why I think that it's plausible, if not probable, that this might be necessary. According to this is Fox Business, Social Security conducting major records cleanup, marking 7 million listed age 120 as deceased. They are messing around with the production database systems all willy-nilly. And as someone who's a software developer, it is never a good idea to mess around and test in production, or typically isn't. It's never a good idea to be messing around with production data, especially if you're not going to take a backup of said data. And I have no faith that Elon Musk is going to do what is necessary to be done when it comes to taking the necessary backups of this data. Why? Because of all the other crap that he's done. The fact that he confused sending help for HIV prevention in Gaza, Mozambique, in Africa. He confused that with us sending condoms to Gaza and Hamas. The fact that they've confused transgender mice with transgenic mice. There's no such thing as a transgender mouse, but there is transgenic mice that are used in scientific research. The fact that these people can't get these simple things correct. That the fact that they fired, laid off, whatever, all of the people in charge of the nuclear stockpile, then it had to scramble to get them back. While many of the things that are being done by Doge and Musk are purposeful, they are not measuring twice before cutting once, and because of that, they're putting people's information and records at risk. So I absolutely would say that even if there's not necessarily a need for you to download your records, it can't hurt for you to download it anyway. Anyway, what do you think? Agree, disagree? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, and of course, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. Anyway, what else? See, what was the movie that came out recently? They put a dog's head in a human body. Weird, but my little one gets what she wants with writhing within reason. Okay. Dog Man, nobody heard of it, but I love dogs. Anyway, let's see. The transgenic mice are busy making transgender mice between the rubble and Gaza. Well, there'll be even more Gaza once Trump gets done with it. Of course, speaking of Gaza, Gazan man murdered by Hamas after joining protest against terror group, family says. Now, I've said before on this show, I guess I should record this too. I've said before on the show that it is very difficult for me to criticize people who are living in Gaza, i.e. Palestinians who are not members of Hamas, who disagree with Hamas, because if you're living under a terrorist organization, you are much less likely to be able to speak out against said terrorist organization, and that's what Hamas relies on. Well, Odeh Nassar el-Rabi was kidnapped, tortured, and executed for demonstrating Body left at his family doorstep, dozen scenes at funeral chanting Hamas out. So not just he was protesting against Hamas, other people who were mourning him were also protesting against Hamas as well. Let's see, Hamas operatives kidnapped, tortured, and executed a 22-year-old Palestinian man who participated in last week's wave of protests against a terror group, according to his family. Odey Nasser al-Rabi's body was left in front of his family home over the weekend. On Saturday, many dozens were filmed participating in a funeral procession shouting Hamas out. Hamas has been threatening Palestinians who participate in the protest against a terror group, but this appears to be the first time that anyone has been killed in connection to them, that we know of at least. Protests were held for 3 straight days last week, but none were held over the weekend amid assessments in Israel that Hamas was intimidating protesters. If Netanyahu wanted to do the right thing, which I don't have any faith that he would want to do the right thing, but if he actually wanted to do the right thing, guess what he would do? He would go in there and go to protect the Palestinian citizens who are being attacked by Hamas. That's what he would do if he had a heart, if he had a soul, if he had any part of his body that could generate empathy. That's what he would do, but he won't. I have no faith that he'd do that because he doesn't care about whether or not Palestinians are alive or dead, because he's indiscriminately bombed Gaza after 10/7, which is not the way to fight Hamas after 10/7. Anyway, that's it. That's it on that topic. I'm not even going to end the video with like, share, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. I'm not even going to do that. So, what's the last thing I wanted to talk about? Or is there more than one thing I wanted to talk about? 2 things. First and foremost, Trans Day of Visibility. That is something that is going on today, and during the Trump administration. It's even more important to care for, reach out to, give a hug to, if they consent to it, your fellow trans folk who happen to be living here in America, because this administration has gone full-on bigoted against trans people. And it is not my responsibility, or it's not my job to talk for transgender folks. It's not my job to speak for them or tell them what they should think or say or do. It is my job to use my privilege as a cisgender white dude to use that privilege and whatever microphone I have to speak out against the anti-trans rhetoric that is going on, that will cause more people to die because of the way that this administration treats folks who are not cisgendered, heterosexual white dudes. So it is very important, very vital on this, specifically on this Trans Day of Visibility, to make sure that, if you're not trans, make it visible that you support trans folk. Make it visible that you will have their backs. Because just as I, as a Jewish person, would want to know that, you would hide me from the Nazis who were trying to send me to camp, we should be doing the same thing and being reaffirming and assuring folks who are trans living in this country that we do have their back still, that we are going to fight for them, that we are going to stand up for them, regardless of what the Democrats in the Senate do. So I guess the final thing, before we end the show, because I do want to end around 10, because I'm sure I have to help Cassie with her medicine, and I also need to eat something because I haven't eaten anything pretty much all day, and also I have work to do, so I'm probably going to be up till at least 2 o'clock in the morning getting this work done. So that being said, there's one more thing that I did want to talk about, which, ending the show on a goofy note, is that far-right influencers, according to Wired, are hosting a $10,000 per person matchmaking weekend to repopulate the Earth. It's called the Natal Conference, and yes, Natal, like prenatal, postnatal. The Natal Conference costs up to $10,000 to attend, features multiple matchmaking strategery sessions and on-site ministers so that attendees can get married. Organizers behind a pro-natalist conference with far-right ties in Austin, Texas, this weekend have set up matchmaking events for attendees that include the option of getting married on site as part of their greater effort to repopulate the world. do we think that the world needed repopulation? We have lots of people on the planet. According to the website, the sold-out Natal Conference took place over the weekend at a hotel operated by the University of Texas at Austin, has no political ideological goal other than a world in which our children can have grandchildren. But the event, an earlier version of which was promoted by Elon Musk, features speakers like Pizzagate conspiracy theorist Jack Posobiec and Cremu, an online pseudonym linked, according to Guardian, to Jordan Lasker, who discusses falling birth rates and promotes eugenics. Natal Conference organizer Kevin Dolan, a father of at least 6, according to Politico, has previously stated that eugenics, the belief that white people are genetically superior, and the pro-natalist movement are very much aligned. So basically, we have eugenicists trying to repopulate the planet. What could go wrong? Public vehicles detail about the conference were scant, with the vague online conferences promising closed-door sessions to address collapsing birth rates. However, an email obtained by Wired promoting a pre-conference mixer held Thursday night reveals matchmaking may play a significant role at the conference and in the pro-natalist movement more widely. This is just absolutely nuts. These people are bizarre. And basically what it almost sounds like is like, if you have $10,000 to go attend this conference, you can get married and get yourself a cheap bride real quick and get yourself laid. So if any incel with 10 grand can now go to this or could have gone to this conference and get themselves a wife and hopefully find somebody who I guess will be within their taste, i.e. submissive and other things that these types of folks want, that are deplorable and horrible and terrible things to want of a partner that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. Anyway, that's it for that, and that's it for this episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. We will, again, we're on Twitch. If you're watching on Twitch, the outro music that I typically play is not liked by Twitch. They give it a copyright violation. It can play on YouTube with no problem, though, so there will be a hard out quickly, followed by the outro that we hear on YouTube. So everybody on Twitch, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody coming over for the House Sparks raid. Thank you for supporting the show. Remember to, if you've not followed over on Twitch, remember to follow. If you haven't subscribed over on YouTube, head on over to liberaldanradio.com and click the subscribe button over there. Go find a bunch of my videos on YouTube. Share them with your friends. Let them know, especially the one with the anti-Semitic numerology going on with the executive order on supposedly ending anti-Semitism. That one should be spread far and wide because more people need to be talking about it than already are. Anyway, so to all the people on Twitch, thank you so much. Appreciate it. For everybody else, you have a great rest of your night. And if you're not joining me on Liberal Dan Radio or on nerdydan.com tomorrow, I will see you Wednesday on the Liberal Dan Radio, same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, have a good one. Peace.
I like turtles.